We'll try our best to present to you an idea of what it is that we're looking at. We are standing on a beautiful stage in a 150-seat theater here at the museum. In front of us are the Signet Sound Deluxe Foley people, and there are 5 or 6 of them with keyboards and samplers and computers and all that. Good morning, guys and ladies. Thank you for coming.
All graduates from ITT.
We are standing on the stage facing the audience, and all of the following people that we're going to introduce to you are standing with us. To our immediate right is Mr. Paul Sorvino.
Hi, Paul.
Hi. You are taller than I thought.
Thank you.
And blonder.
Hey, why don't you make a daughter comment?
Thank God for Clairol.
Standing next to Paul Sorvino, actually now standing, was sitting, a very good friend of the program. Please welcome William Shatner.
Next to him, you'll know him from Entertainment Tonight and his own television programs over the years, Mr. Leonard Maltin.
One of the most respected and well-known news anchors here in Los Angeles, Paul Moyer.
And having just arrived in the nick of time, being stuck in cold water traffic, Colleen Williams.
Hi, Colleen.
And the gentleman you just heard doing little Roger Rabbit, this is the biggest working voice in the business, Mr. Jess Harnell.
And of course, the glue, the epoxy, the caulk
The huge caulk of the show.
of the entire broadcast. My partner, Mark Thompson, and myself, Brian Phelps. Thank you very much.
All right.
Thank you, so. The caulk.
The big. All right. There's best, we don't have to take a break, so the only way we know to do it is just to do it. Ladies and gentlemen, our Halloween gift to you and to those of you listening, this is the War of the Worlds.
The Mark and Brian radio program and its affiliated stations present Paul Sorvino, William Shatner, Leonard Maltin, Paul Moyer, Colleen Williams, Jess Harnell, and Mark and Brian in a radio play by Howard Koch suggested by the H.G. Wells novel The War of the Worlds. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark and Brian.
We now know that in the early years of the 20th century, this world was being watched closely by intelligence greater than man's and yet as mortal as his own.
We now know that as human beings busy themselves about their various concerns, they were scrutinized and studied, perhaps almost as narrowly as a man with a microscope might scrutinize the transient creatures that swarm and multiply in a drop of water. With infinite complacence, people went to and fro over the earth about their little affairs, serene in the assurance of their dominion over the small spinning fragment of solar driftwood, which by chance or design man has inherited out of the dark mystery of time and space. Yet, across an immense ethereal gulf, minds that are to minds as ours are to the beasts in the jungle, intellects vast, cool, and unsympathetic regarded this earth with envious eyes, and slowly and surely drew their plans against us. In the 39th year of the 20th century came the Great Disillusionment.
It was near the end of October. Business was better. The war scare was over. More men were back at work. Sales were picking up. On this particular evening, October 30th, the Crossley service estimated that 32 million people were listening to the radio.
For the next 24 hours, not much change in temperature. A slight atmospheric disturbance of undetermined origin is reported over Nova Scotia, causing a low-pressure area to move down rather rapidly over the northeastern states, bringing a forecast of rain accompanied by winds of light gale force. Maximum temperature 66, minimum 48. This weather report comes to you from the Government Weather Bureau. We take you now to the Meridian Room in the Hotel Park Plaza in downtown New York, where you will be entertained by the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. From the Meridian Room in the Park Plaza Hotel in New York City, we bring you the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. With a touch of the Spanish, Ramon Raquello leads off with La Comparsita.
Ladies and gentlemen, we interrupt our program of dance music to bring you a special bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News. At 20 minutes before 8 Central Time, Professor Farrell of the Mount Jennings Observatory, Chicago, Illinois, reports observing several explosions of incandescent gas occurring at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The spectroscope indicates the gas to be hydrogen and moving toward the Earth with enormous velocity. Professor Pearson of the observatory at Princeton confirms Farrell's observation and describes the phenomenon as, and I quote, like a jet of blue flame shot from a gun, close quote. We now return you to the music of Ramon Raquello, playing for you in the Meridian Room of the Park Plaza Hotel, situated in downtown New York.
And now, a tune that never loses favor, the ever-popular Stardust. Ramon Raquello and his orchestra.
Ladies and gentlemen, following on the news given in our bulletin a moment ago, the Government Meteorological Bureau has requested the large observatories of the country to keep an astronomical watch on any further disturbances occurring on the planet Mars. Due to the unusual nature of this occurrence, we have arranged an interview with a noted astronomer, Professor Pearson, who will give us his views on this event. In a few moments, we will take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, New Jersey. We return you until then to the music of Ramon Raquello and his orchestra. We are ready now to take you to the Princeton Observatory at Princeton, where Carl Phillips, our commentator, will interview Professor Richard Pearson, famous astronomer. We take you now to Princeton, New Jersey.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Carl Phillips speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton. I'm standing in a large semicircular room, pitch black except for an oblong split in the ceiling. And through this opening I can see a sprinkling of stars that cast a kind of frosty glow over the intricate mechanism of the huge telescope. The ticking sound you hear is the vibration of the clockwork. And Professor Pearson stands directly above me on a small platform, peering through the giant lens. I ask you to be patient, ladies and gentlemen, during any delay that may arise during our interview. Besides his ceaseless watch of the heavens, Professor Pearson may be interrupted by telephone or other communications, and during this period, he is in constant touch with the astronomical centers of the world. Professor, may I begin our questions?
At any time, Mr. Phillips.
Professor, would you please tell our radio audience exactly what you see as you observe the planet Mars through your telescope?
Nothing unusual at the moment, Mr. Phillips. A red disk swimming in a blue sea, transverse stripes across the disk. Quite distinct now, because Mars happens to be at the point nearest the Earth, in opposition, as we call it.
And in your opinion, what do these transverse stripes signify, Professor Pearson?
Not canals, I can assure you, Mr. Phillips, although that's the popular conjecture of those who imagine Mars to be inhabited. From a scientific viewpoint, the stripes are merely the result of atmospheric conditions peculiar to the planet.
Then you're quite convinced, as a scientist, that living intelligence as we know it does not exist on Mars?
Oh, I should say the chances against it are 1,000 to 1.
And yet, how do you account for these gas eruptions occurring on the surface of the planet at regular intervals?
Mr. Phillips, I can't account for it.
By the way, Professor, for the benefit of our listeners, how far is Mars from Earth?
Approximately 40 million miles.
Well, that seems a safe enough distance. Just a moment, ladies and gentlemen. Someone has just handed Professor Pearson a message. And while he reads it, let me remind you that we are speaking to you from the observatory in Princeton, New Jersey, where we are interviewing the world-famous astronomer, Professor Pearson. One moment, please. Professor Pearson has passed me a message which he has just received. Professor, may I read the message to the listening audience?
Certainly, Mr. Phillips.
Ladies and gentlemen, I shall read you a wire addressed to Professor Pearson from Dr. Gray of the National History Museum, New York. Quote, 9:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, seismograph registered shock of almost earthquake intensity occurring within a radius of 20 miles of Princeton. Please investigate, signed Lloyd Gray, Chief of Astronomical Division, unquote. Professor Pearson, could this occurrence possibility of something to do with the disturbances observed on the planet Mars?
Hardly, Mr. Phillips. This is probably a meteorite of unusual size, and its arrival at this particular time is merely a coincidence. However, we shall conduct a search as soon as daylight permits.
Thank you, Professor. Ladies and gentlemen, for the past 10 minutes, we've been speaking to you from the observatory at Princeton, bringing you a special interview with Professor Pearson, noted astronomer. This is Carl Phillips speaking. We are returning you now to our New York studio.
Ladies and gentlemen, here is the latest bulletin from the Intercontinental Radio News, Toronto, Canada. Professor Morse of Macmillan University reports observing a total of 3 explosions on the planet Mars between the hours of 7:45 p.m. and 9:20 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This confirms earlier reports received from American observatories. Now, just in, nearer home, comes a special bulletin from Trenton, New Jersey. It is reported that at 8:50 p.m., a huge flaming object believed to be a meteorite fell on a farm in the neighborhood of Grover's Mill, New Jersey, 22 miles from Trenton. The flash of the sky was visible within a radius of several hundred miles, and the noise of the impact was heard as far north as Elizabeth. We have now dispatched a special mobile unit to the scene. We have our commentator, Carl Phillips, will give you a word picture of the scene as soon as he can reach there from Princeton. In the meantime, we take you to the Hotel Martinet in Brooklyn, where Bobby Millett and his orchestra are offering a program of dance music. All right, we take you now to Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is Carl Phillips again, out at the Wilmuth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Professor Pearson and myself made the 11 miles from Princeton in 10 minutes. Well, I hardly know where to begin to paint for you a word picture of the strange scene before my eyes, like something out of a modern Arabian Nights. Well, I just got here. I haven't had a chance to look around yet. I guess that's it. Yes, that's the thing directly in front of me, half buried in a vast pit. Must have struck with terrific force. The ground is covered with splinters of a tree. It must have struck on its way down. What I can see of the object itself doesn't look very much like a meteor. At least not the meteors I've seen. It looks more like a huge cylinder. It has a diameter of, what would you say, Professor Pearson?
What's that?
What would you say, what's the diameter of this?
About 30 yards.
30 yards. 30. The metal on the sheath is... I've never seen anything like it. The color is sort of yellowish white. Curious spectators now are pressing close to the object. In spite of the efforts of the police to keep them back, they're getting in front of my line of vision. Would you mind standing one side, please?
Wait, one side there.
Would you mind standing one
side?
Please. While the policemen are pushing the crowd back, here's Mr. Wilmuth, owner of the farm here. He may have some interesting facts to add. Mr. Wilmuth, would you please tell the radio audience as much as you remember of this rather unusual visitor that has dropped into your backyard? A step closer. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Mr. Wilmuth.
I was listening to the radio.
Closer and louder.
Oh, sorry.
No, louder.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. And closer.
Well, I was listening to the radio, kind of drowsing. That professor fellow was talking about Mars, so I was half dozing.
Yes, Mr. Wilmuth. And then what happened?
Well, as I was saying, I was listening to the radio, kind of halfway
yes,
dozing.
Mr. Wilmuth, and then you saw something.
Well, not at first, no. I heard something, though.
And what did you hear?
Well, it was a hissing sound, kind of like a 4th of July rocket. Or
Yes,
something.
yes, and then what?
Well, I turned my head out the window and would have sworn I was to sleep and dreaming.
Yes, yes.
I seen kind of a greenish streak, and then zingo, something smacked the ground and knocked me clear off my chair.
Well, were you frightened, Mr. Wilmer?
Well, I ain't quite sure. I reckon I was kind of riled.
Well, thank you, Mr. Wilmer. Thank you very much.
Want me to tell you some more?
No, that's quite all right. That's plenty. Ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Wilmot, the owner of the farm where this thing has fallen. I wish I could convey the atmosphere, the background of this fantastic scene. Hundreds of cars are parked in the field in back of us. Police are trying to rope off the roadway leading into the farm, but it's no use. They're breaking right through. Cars' headlights throw an enormous spotlight on the pit where the object's half buried. And some of the more daring souls now are venturing near the edge. Their silhouettes stand out against the metal sheen. One man wants to touch the thing. He's having an argument with the policeman. The policeman wins. Now, ladies and gentlemen, there's something I haven't mentioned in all this excitement, but it's becoming more distinct. Perhaps you've caught it already on your radio. Listen, please. Do you hear it? It's a curious humming sound that seems to be coming from inside the object. I'll move the microphone nearer. Here. And now we're not more than 25 feet away. Can you hear it now? Oh, Professor Pearson.
Yes, Mr. Phillips.
Can you tell us the meaning of that scraping noise inside the thing?
Well, it's possibly the unique cooling of its surface.
Do you still think it's a meteor, Professor?
I don't know what to think. The metal casing is definitely extraterrestrial, not found on this Earth. Friction with the Earth's atmosphere usually tears holes in a meteorite. This thing is smooth and, as you can see, of cylindrical shape.
Just a minute. Just a minute, something is happening. Ladies and gentlemen, this is terrific. This end of the thing is beginning to flake off. The top is beginning to rotate like a screw. This thing must be hollow.
That thing's moving!
Hey, wait a minute. Maybe there's a man in there trying to escape. Wait a minute.
Just a moment there. Will you please get back?
Wait.
Look at this. Stay back! Stay back!
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most terrifying thing I've ever witnessed. Wait a minute. Someone's crawling out of the hollow top. Someone or something I can see peering out of that black hole. Two luminous discs. Are they eyes? It might be a face. It might be... Oh, God. Good heavens. Something's wriggling out of the shadow like a gray snake. Now it's another one, another one, and another one. And another one. They look like tentacles to me. There, I can see the thing's body. It's large. As large as a man. It glistens like wet leather. But that face, it's, ladies and gentlemen, it's indescribable. I can hardly force myself to keep looking at it. It's so awful. The eyes are black and they gleam like a serpent. The mouth is kind of V-shaped with saliva dripping from its rimless lips that seem to quiver and pulsate. The monster, or whatever it is, can hardly move. It seems weighed down by possibly gravity or something. The thing's rising up now. The crowd falls back. They've seen plenty. Most extraordinary experience. I can't find words. Well, I'll pull this microphone with me as I talk. I'll have to stop the description until I can take a new position. Hold on, will you please? I'll be right back in a minute.
We are bringing you an eyewitness account of what's happening, what's going on at the Wilmoth Farm, Grover's Mill, New Jersey. We now return you to Carl Phillips at Grover's Mill.
Ladies and gentlemen, gentlemen, am I on? Am I on? Ladies and gentlemen, here I am, back of a stone wall that adjoins Mr. Wilmoth's garden. From here, I get a sweep of the whole scene. I'll give you every detail as long as I can talk, as long as I can see. More state police have arrived. They're drawing up a cordon in front of the pit, about 30 of them. No need to push the crowd back now. They're willing to keep their distance. The captain is conferring with someone. I can't quite see who. Oh, yes, I believe it's Professor Pearson. Yes, it is. And now they've parted, and the professor moves around one side, studying the object, while the captain and the two policemen advance with something in their hands. I can see it now. It's a white handkerchief tied to a pole. Flag of truce. If those creatures know what that means, what anything means. Wait a minute. Something's happening. A humped shape is rising out of the pit. I can make out a small beam of light against a mirror. What's that? There's a jet of flame springing from the mirror, and it leaps right at the advancing men. It strikes them head on. Oh, my God! They're turning into flame. Now the whole field's caught on fire. The woods, the barns, the gas tanks of automobiles. It's spreading everywhere. It's coming this way now. About 20 yards to my right.
Ladies and gentlemen, due to circumstances beyond our control, we are unable to continue the broadcast from Grover's Mill. Evidently, there's something wrong, some difficulty with our field transmission. I don't know what it is. However, we will return to that point at the earliest opportunity. In the meantime, a late bulletin handed to me from San Diego, California. Professor Indelkoffer, speaking at a dinner of the California Astronomical Society, expresses the opinion that the explosions on Mars are undoubtedly nothing more than severe volcanic disturbances on the surface of the planet. We continue now with our piano interlude. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been handed a message that came from Grover's Mill by telephone. Just one moment, please. Yes, at least 40 people, including 6 state troopers, lie dead in a field east of the village of Grover's Mill. Their bodies burned and distorted beyond all possible recognition. The next voice you hear will be that of Brigadier General Montgomery Smith, commander of the state militia at Trenton, New Jersey.
I have been requested by the governor of New Jersey to place the counties of Mercer and Middlesex as far west as Princeton and east to Jamesburg under martial law. No one will be permitted to enter this area except by special pass issued by state or military authorities. 4 companies of state militia are proceeding from Trenton to Grover's Mill and will aid in the evacuation of homes within the range of military operations. Thank you.
You've just been listening to General Montgomery Smith, commanding the state militia at Trenton. In the meantime, further details of the catastrophe at Grover's Mill are coming in. The strange creatures, after unleashing their deadly assault, crawled back in their pit and made no attempt to prevent the efforts of the firemen to recover the bodies and extinguish the fire. The combined fire departments of Mercer County are fighting the flames which menace the entire countryside. We've been unable to establish any contact with our mobile unit at Grover's Mill, but we hope to be able to return you there at the earliest possible moment. In the meantime, we take you to... just one moment, please. Ladies and gentlemen, I've just been informed that we finally established communication with an eyewitness of the tragedy. Professor Pearson has been located at a farmhouse near Grover's Mill, where he's established an emergency observation post. As a scientist, he will give you his explanation of the calamity. The next voice you hear will be that of Professor Pearson, brought to you by Direct Wire. Professor Pearson.
Of the creature in the rocket cylinder at Grover's Mill, I can give you no authoritative information either as to their nature, their origin, or their purposes here on Earth. Of their destructive instrument, I might venture some conjectural explanation. For want of a better term, I shall refer to the mysterious weapon as a heat ray. It's all too evident that these creatures have scientific knowledge far in advance of our own. It is my guess that in some way they're able to generate an intense heat in a chamber of practically absolute non-conductivity. This intense heat they project in a parallel beam against any object they choose by means of a polished parabolic mirror of unknown composition, much as the mirror of a lighthouse projects a beam of light. That is my conjecture of the origin of the heat ray.
Thank you, Professor Pearson. Ladies and gentlemen, here is a bulletin now from Trenton. It is a brief statement informing us that the charred body of Carl Phillips has been identified in a Trenton hospital. Now, here's another bulletin from Washington, D.C. Just a moment. The Office of the Director of the National Red Cross reports 10 units of Red Cross emergency workers have been assigned to the headquarters of the state militia stationed outside of Grover's Mill, New Jersey. Here's a bulletin from the state police, Princeton Junction. The fires at Grover's Mill and vicinity are now under control. Scouts report all quiet in the pit. There is no sign of life appearing from the mouth of the cylinder. And now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a special statement from Mr. Harry McDonald, Vice President in charge of operations.
We have received a request from the state militia at Trenton to place at their disposal our entire broadcasting facilities. In view of the gravity of the situation and believing the radio has a responsibility to serve in the public interest at all times, we are turning over our facilities to the state militia at Trenton.
We take you now to the field headquarters of the state militia near Grover's Mill, New Jersey.
This is Captain Lansing of the Signal Corps, attached to the state militia, now engaged in military operations in the vicinity of Grover's Mill. Situation arising from the reported presence of certain individuals of unidentified nature is now under complete control. Now, the cylindrical object, which lies in a pit directly below our position, is surrounded on all sides by 8 battalions of infantry without heavy field pieces, but adequately armed with rifles and machine guns. Now, all cause for alarm, if such cause ever existed, is now entirely unjustified. These things, whatever they are, do not even venture to poke their heads above the pit. Now, I can see their hiding place plainly in the glare of the searchlights here. With all their reported resources, these creatures can scarcely stand up against heavy machine gun fire. Well, anyway, it's an interesting outing for the troops. I can make out their khaki uniforms crossing back and forth in front of the lights. It looks almost like a real war. There appears to be some slight smoke in the woods bordering the Millstone River. Probably a fire started by campers. Well, we ought to see some action soon. One of the companies is deploying on the left flank. A quick thrust, and this will all be over. No, wait a minute. I see something on top of the cylinder. No, it's nothing but a shadow. Now the troops are on the edge of the Wilmot Farm. 7,000 armed men closing in on an old metal tube. Wait, that wasn't a shadow. It's something moving. Solid metal. Kind of a shield-like affair rising up out of the cylinder. It's going higher and higher. Why, it's standing on legs. It's actually rearing up on a sort of metal framework. Now it's reaching above the trees and the searchlights are on it. Oh, hold on!
Ladies and gentlemen, I have a grave announcement to make. Incredible as it may seem, both the observations of science and the evidence of our eyes lead to the inescapable assumption that these strange beings who landed in the Jersey farmland tonight are the vanguard of an invading army from the planet Mars. The battle which took place tonight at Grover's Mills has ended in one of the most startling defeats ever suffered by an army in modern times. 7,000 men, armed with rifles and machine guns, pitted against a single fighting machine of the invaders from Mars. 120 known survivors, the rest strewn over the battle area from Grover's Mill to Plainsboro, crushed and trampled to death under the metal feet of the monster or burned to cinders by its heat ray. The monster is now in control of the middle section of New Jersey, has effectively cut the state through its center. Communication lines are down from Pennsylvania to the Atlantic Ocean. Railroad tracks are torn. Service from New York to Philadelphia discontinued, except routing some of the trains through Allentown and Phoenixville. Highways to the north, south, and west are clogged with frantic human traffic. Police and Army reserves are unable to control the mad flight. By morning, the fugitives will have swelled Philadelphia, Camden, and Trenton. It is estimated to twice their normal population. Martial law prevails throughout New Jersey and eastern Pennsylvania. All right, at this time, we take you to the Washington for a special broadcast on the national emergency. The Secretary of the Interior.
Citizens of the nation, I shall not try to conceal the gravity of the situation that confronts our country, nor the concern of your government in protecting the lives and the property of its people. However, I wish to impress upon you, private citizens and public officials, all of you, the urgent need of calm and resourceful action. Fortunately, this formidable enemy is still confined to a comparatively small area, and we may place our faith in our military forces to keep them there. In the meantime, placing our faith in God, we must continue the performance of our duties, each and every one of us, so that we may confront this destructive adversary with a nation united, courageous, and consecrated to the preservation of human supremacy on this earth. I thank you.
You have just heard the Secretary of the Interior speaking from Washington. Bulletins too numerous to read are piling up in the studio here. We're informed that the central portion of New Jersey is blacked out from radio communication due to the effect of the heat ray upon power lines and electrical equipment. Here's a special bulletin. New York. Cables have been received from English, French, and German scientific bodies offering assistance. Astronomers report continued gas outbursts at regular intervals on the planet Mars. The majority voiced the opinion that the enemy will be reinforced by additional rocket machines. There have been several attempts made to locate Professor Pearson of Princeton, who's observed Martians at close range. It is feared he was lost in the recent battle. Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report 3 Martian machines visible above treetops, moving north towards Somerville with population fleeing ahead of them. The heat ray not in use, although advancing at express-train speed, invaders pick their way carefully. They seem to be making a conscious effort to avoid destruction of cities and countryside. However, they stop to uproot power lines, bridges, and railroad tracks. Their apparent objective is to crush resistance, paralyze communication, and disorganize human society.
Here's a bulletin from Baskin Ridge, New Jersey. Coon hunters have stumbled on a second cylinder similar to the first one, embedded in the Great Swamp 20 miles south this time of Morristown. Army field pieces are proceeding from Newark to blow up the second invading unit before the cylinder can be opened and the fighting machine rigged. They're taking up a position in the foothills of Watchung Mountains. Wait a second here. We have another bulletin from Langham Field, Virginia. Scouting planes report enemy machines, 3 in number, increasing speed northward, kicking over houses and trees in their evident haste to form a conjunction with their allies south of Morristown. Machines also sighted by telephone operator east of Middlesex, within 10 miles of Plainfield. Hang on, we have a second bulletin here. It reads, this one's from Winston-Field, Long Island. A fleet of Army bombers carrying heavy explosives flying north in pursuit of enemy here. Scouting planes act as guides. They keep the speeding enemy in sight here. Just a minute, please, ladies and gentlemen. We've run special wires to the artillery line in adjacent villages to give you direct reports from the zones of the advancing enemy. First, right now, we take you to the battery of the 22nd Field Artillery, located in the Watchung Mountains.
Range, 32 meters.
32 meters.
Projection, 39 degrees.
39 degrees.
Fire.
140 yards to the right, sir.
Shift range, 31 meters.
31 meters.
Projection, 37 degrees.
37 degrees.
Fire.
A hit, sir. We got the tripod on one of them. They've stopped. The others are trying to repair it.
Quick, get the range. Shift 30 meters.
30 meters.
Projection, 27 degrees.
27 degrees.
Fire.
I can't see the shell land, sir. They're letting off a smoke.
What is it?
It's a black smoke, sir. Moving this way. Lying close to the ground. It's moving fast.
Put on gas mask. Get ready to fire. Shift to 24 meters.
24 meters.
Projection, 24 degrees.
24 degrees.
Fire.
I still can't see, sir. The smoke's coming nearer.
Get the range.
23 meters.
24 meters.
23 meters.
Projection, 22 degrees.
Projection, 22 degrees.
Army bombing plane V-843 off Bayonne, New Jersey. Lieutenant Voigt, commanding 8 bombers, reporting to Commander Fairfax, Langham Field. This is Voight reporting to Commander Fairfax Langham Field. Enemy tripod machines are now in sight, reinforced by 3 machines from the Morristown cylinder. 6 altogether, 1 machine partially crippled. Believed hit by small gun ray. Guns now appear silent. A heavy black fog hanging close to the earth. Extreme density, nature unknown. No sign of the heat ray. Enemy now turns east, crossing Passaic River into the Jersey marshes. Another straddles the Pulaski Skyway. Evident objective is New York City. They're pushing down a high-tension power station. The machines are close together now. They're ready to attack. Our planes are circling, ready to strike. 1,000 yards will be over the first. 800 yards. 600 yards. 400. 200. There they go. The giant arm raised. A green flash. They're spraying us with flame. 2,000 feet. Our engines are giving out. There's no chance to release our bombs. There's only one thing left. We're going to drop on a plane and all. We're diving on the first one. The engine's gone. Hey!
This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. This is Bayonne, New Jersey, calling Langham Field. Come in, please.
Oh, this is Langham Field. Go ahead.
8 Army bombers in engagement with enemy tripod machines over Jersey Flats. Engines incapacitated by heat ray, all crashed. 1 enemy machine destroyed. Enemy now discharging heavy black smoke in direction of...
This is Newark, New Jersey. This is Newark, New Jersey. Warning. There's a poisonous black smoke pouring in from Jersey marshes. Reaches South Street. Gas masks useless. Urge population to move into open spaces. Automobiles use Route 7, 23, and 24. Avoid congested areas. Smoke now spreading over Raymond Boulevard.
2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling CQ. 2X2L calling XX3R. Come in, please.
Oh, this is 8X3R. Coming back at 2X2L.
How's reception? How's reception? Okay, please. Where are you? 8X3R. What's the matter?
I'm speaking to you from the roof of Broadcast Building, New York City. The bells you hear ringing are to warn the people to evacuate the city as the Martians approach. Estimated in the last 2 hours, 3 million people have moved out along the road to the north. Hutchinson River Parkway still open for motor traffic. Avoid bridges to Long Island, hopelessly jammed. All communication with Jersey Shores closed 10 minutes ago. No more defenses here. Our army wiped out. Artillery, Air Force, everything gone. Everything wiped out. This may be our last broadcast. We'll stay here to the end. People are holding service here below us in the cathedral. Now I look down the harbor, all manner of boats overloaded with fleeing population pulling out from the docks. Streets are jammed here, noise and crowds like New Year's Eve in the city here. Wait a minute. I can see them, the enemies now in sight above the Palisades. Five great machines here. First one is crossing the river. I can see it from here. It's wading the Hudson like a man wading through a brook. Hang on a second, hang on. Another bulletin handed to me. The Martians are falling in all over the country. We understand one outside of Buffalo, one in Chicago, another in St. Louis. They seem to be timed and spaced. Now the first machine reaches the shore here. He stands watching, looking over the city. His steel, cowlish head is even with the skyscrapers. He's waiting for the others. They rise like a line of new towers on the city's west side. Now they're lifting up their metal hands. Oh God, this is the end. The smoke's coming here. Black smoke's drifting all over the city. You can probably hear the panic. People in the streets see it now. They're running towards the East River, thousands of them, dropping. They look like they're dropping in like rats. The smoke's spreading even faster here. You can see it's reached Times Square. People are trying to run away from it, but there's no escaping. There's no use. They're falling. They're dropping like flies here. I can see it. The smoke is crossing 6th Street all the way up to 5th Avenue. It's 100 yards away, 50 feet.
"2X2L, calling CQ. 2X2L, calling CQ. 2X2L, calling CQ. New York? Isn't there anyone there? Isn't there anyone on the air?"
As I set down these notes on paper, I am obsessed by the thought that I may be the last living man on Earth. I've been hiding in this empty house near Grover's Mill, a small island of daylight cut off by the black smoke from the rest of the world. All that happened before the arrival of these monstrous creatures in the world now seems part of another life, a life that has no continuity with the present, furtive existence of the lonely derelict who pencils these words on the back of some astronomical notes bearing the signature of Richard Pearson. I look down at my blackened hands, my torn shoes, my tattered clothes, and I try to connect them with a professor who lives at Princeton and who, on the night of October 30th, glimpsed through his telescope an orange splash of light on a distant planet. My wife, my colleagues, my students, my books, my observatory, my world. Where are they? Did they ever exist? Am I Richard Pearson? What day is it? Do days exist without calendars? Does time pass when there are no human hands left to wind the clocks? In writing down my daily life, I tell myself I shall preserve human history between the dark covers of this little book that was meant to record the movement of the stars. But to write, I must live, and to live, I must eat. I find moldy bread in the kitchen and an orange not too spoiled to swallow. I keep watching at the window. From time to time, I catch sight of a Martian above the black smoke. The smoke still holds the house in its black coil. But at length, there is a hissing sound, and suddenly I see a Martian mounted on his machine, spraying the air with a jet of steam as if to dissipate the smoke. I watch in a corner as his huge metal legs nearly brush against the house. Exhausted by terror, I fall asleep. It's morning. It's morning. Sun streams in the window, the black cloud of gas has lifted, and the scorched meadows to the north look as though a black snowstorm has passed over them. I venture from the house. I make my way to a road. No traffic. Here and there a wrecked car. Baggage overturned, a blackened skeleton. I push on north. For some reason, I feel safer trailing these monsters than running away from them, and I keep a careful watch. I have seen the Martians feed. Should one of their machines appear over the top of the trees, I am ready to fling myself flat on the earth. I come to a chestnut tree. October. Chestnuts are ripe. I fill my pockets. I must keep alive. 2 days I wander in a vague, northerly direction through a desolate world. Finally, I notice a living creature. A small red squirrel in a beech tree. I stare at him and wonder. He stares back at me. I believe at that moment the animal and I shared the same emotion. The joy of finding another living being. I push on north. I find dead cows in a brackish field beyond the charred ruins of a dairy. The silo remains standing guard over the wasteland like a lighthouse deserted by the sea. Astride the silo perches a weathercock. The arrow points north. Next day I come to a city vaguely familiar in its contours, yet its buildings strangely dwarfed and leveled off, as if a giant had sliced off its highest towers with a capricious sweep of his hand. I reached the outskirts. I found Newark, undemolished but humbled by some whim of the advancing Martians. Presently, with an odd feeling of being watched, I caught sight of something crouching in a doorway. I made a step towards it, and it rose up and became a man armed with a large knife.
Stop! Stop. Where did you come from?
I come from many places, a long time ago, from Princeton.
Princeton, huh? That's near Grover's Mill.
Yes.
Grover's Mill. Look, there's no food here. This is my country. All this into town, down to the river. There's only food for one. Which way are you going?
I don't know. I guess I'm looking for people.
Who's that? Did you hear something just then?
No. Only a bird. A live bird.
Yeah, a bird. You get to know that birds have shadows these days. Hey, we're in the open here. Let's crawl into this doorway over here and we'll talk.
Have you seen any Martians?
No, they've gone over to New York. At night, the sky's alive with their lights. Just as if people are still living in it. By daylight, you can't see them. 5 days ago, a couple of them carried something big across the flats from the airport. I think they're learning how to fly.
Fly?
Yeah, fly.
Then it's all over with humanity. Stranger, there's still you and I. 2 of us left.
Yeah, they got themselves in solid. They wrecked the greatest country in the world. Those green stars, they're probably falling somewhere every night. They've only lost one machine. There isn't anything to do. We're done. We're licked.
Where were you? You're in a uniform.
Yeah, what's left of it. I was in the militia, National Guard. That's good. Yeah, wasn't any war any more than there's war between men and ants.
Yes, but we are edible ants. I found that out. What will they do to us?
Okay, now I've thought all this out. See, right now, we're caught as we're wanted. The Martian only has to go a few miles to get a crowd on the run, but they won't keep on doing that. They'll begin catching us systematic-like, see? Keeping the best and storing us in cages and things. They haven't begun on us yet.
Not begun?
No, not begun. All that's happened so far is because we don't have sense enough to keep quiet. Bothering them with guns and such stuff and losing our heads and rushing off in crowds. Now, instead of our rushing around blind, we gotta fix ourselves up, see? Fix ourselves up according to the way things are now. Cities, nations, civilization, progress.
But if that's so, what is there to live for?
Well, there won't be any more concerts for 1,000,000 years or so, and no nice little dinners at restaurants. So if it's amusement you're after, I guess the game's up.
What is there left?
There's life. Life, that's what. I want to live, and so do you. We're not going to be exterminated. And I don't mean to be caught either, and tamed and fattened and bred like an ox.
What are you going to do?
I'm going on. Right under their feet. I got a plan. We men as men. Okay, fine, we're finished. We don't know enough. We got to learn plenty before we've got a chance. We've got to live and keep free while we learn, see? Now, I've thought it all out, you see?
Tell me the rest.
Well, it isn't all of us that are made for wild beasts, and that's what it's got to be. That's why I watched you. See, I watched you. All these little office workers that used to live in these houses, they'd be no good. They haven't any stuff to them. They just used to run off to work. I've seen hundreds of them run to catch their commuters train in the morning, afraid they'd get canned if they didn't, running back at night, afraid they wouldn't be in time for dinner. Lives insured and a little invested in case of an accident, you know? Yeah. And on Sundays, worried about the hereafter. Well, the Martians will be a godsend for these guys. Nice, roomy cages, good food, careful breeding, no worries. Yeah. After a week or so of chasing around the fields on empty stomachs, they'll come and be glad to be caught.
You've thought it all out, haven't you?
You bet I have. Now, that isn't all. These Martians, they're gonna make pets of some of them. Train them to do tricks. Who knows? Get sentimental over the pet boy who grew up and had to be killed. Yeah. And some maybe they'll train to hunt us.
Oh, no, that's impossible. No human being.
Yes, they will. Yes, they will. There's men who'll do it gladly. If one of them ever comes after me, why...
In the meantime, you and I and others like us, where are we to live when the Martians own the Earth?
I've got it all figured out, see. We'll live underground. Now, I've been thinking about the sewers. Under New York, there's miles and miles of them. The main ones are big enough for anybody. Then there's cellars, vaults, underground storerooms, railway tunnels, subways. You begin to see, don't you? We'll get a bunch of strong men together, no weak ones. All that rubbish gets out.
And you meant me to go?
Well, I gave you a chance, didn't I?
We won't quarrel about that. Go on.
Well, we've got to make safe places for us to stay in, see? And get all the books we can. Those science books. That's where men like you come in, see? Yeah. We'll raid the museums. We'll even spy on the Martians. It may not be so much we have to learn before... Now, just imagine this. 4 or 5 of their own fighting machines suddenly start off. Heat rays right and left and not a Martian in them. Not a Martian in them, see? But men who have learned the way how. It may even be in our time. Gee, imagine having one of them lovely things with its heat ray, wide and free. Oh, we turn it on Martians, we turn it on men, we bring everybody down to their knees.
That's your plan?
Yeah. You and me and a few more of us. See, we'd own the world.
I see.
Hey, what's the matter? Where are you going?
Not to your world. Goodbye, stranger. After parting with the artilleryman, I came at last to the Holland Tunnel. I entered that silent tube, anxious to know the fate of the great city on the other side of the Hudson. Cautiously, I came out of the tunnel and made my way up Canal Street. I reached 14th Street, and there again were black powder and several bodies, and an evil, ominous smell from the gratings of the cellars of some of the houses. I wandered up through the 30s and 40s. I stood alone on Times Square. I caught sight of a lean dog running down 7th Avenue with a piece of dark brown meat in his jaws, and a pack of starving mongrels at his heels. He made a wide circle around me as though he feared I might prove a fresh competitor. I walked up Broadway in the direction of that strange powder, past silent shop windows displaying their mute wares to empty sidewalks, past the Capitol Theater, silent, dark, past a shooting gallery where a row of empty guns faced an arrested line of wooden ducks. Near Columbus Circle, I noticed models of 1939 motor cars in the showrooms facing empty streets. From over the top of the General Motors building, I watched a flock of black birds circling in the sky. Suddenly, I caught sight of the hood of a Martian machine standing somewhere in Central Park, gleaming in the late afternoon sun. An insane idea. I rushed recklessly across Columbus Circle and into the park. I climbed a small hill above the pond at 60th Street. From there I could see, standing in a silent row along the mall, 19 of those great metal titans, their cowls empty, their steel arms hanging listlessly by their sides. I looked in vain for the monsters that inhabit those machines. Suddenly, my eyes were attracted to the immense flock of black birds that hovered directly below me. They circled to the ground, and there, before my eyes, stark and silent, lay the Martians, with the hungry birds pecking and tearing brown shreds of flesh from their dead bodies. Later, when their bodies were examined in laboratories, it was found that they were killed by the putrefactive and diseased bacteria against which their systems were unprepared, slain after all man's defenses had failed by the humblest thing that God in his wisdom put upon this earth. Before the cylinder fell, there was a general persuasion that through all the deep of space, no life existed beyond the petty surface of our minute sphere. Now we see further. Dim and wonderful is the vision I have conjured up in my mind of life, spreading slowly from this little seed bed of the solar system throughout the inanimate vastness of sidereal space. But that is a remote dream. It may be. It may be that the destruction of the Martians is only a reprieve. To them and not to us is the future ordained, perhaps. Strange it now seems to sit in my peaceful study at Princeton, writing down this last chapter of the record begun at a deserted farm in Grover's Mill. Strange to watch children playing in the streets. Strange to see young people strolling on the green where the new spring grass heals the last black scars of a bruised earth. Strange to watch the sightseers enter the museum where the dissembled parts of a Martian machine are kept on public view. Strange when I recall the time when I first saw it, bright and clean-cut, hard and silent, under the dawn of that last great day.
This is Mark and Brian, ladies and gentlemen, out of character and here to assure you that the War of the Worlds has no further significance than as the holiday offering it was intended to be.
A radio version of dressing up in a sheet and jumping out of a bush saying boo. Starting now, we couldn't soap all your windows and steal all your garden gates by tonight, so we did the next best thing.
We annihilated the world before your very ears and utterly destroyed the Columbia Broadcasting System. You will be relieved, we hope, to learn that we didn't mean it and that both institutions are still open for business.
So goodbye, everybody. Remember, please, for the next day or so, the terrible lesson you learned tonight. That grinning, glowing, globular invader of your living room is an inhabitant of the pumpkin patch. And if your doorbell rings and nobody's there, that was no Martian. It's Halloween.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And there is a standing ovation from 30,000 people.
None of them looking in our direction, however, but on the side where Paul Sorvino is. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. While you're standing and putting your hands together, let's hear it for Paul Sorvino.
William Shatner.
Paul Moyer.
Colleen Williams.
Leonard Maltin.
And playing about 18 different people, Jess Harnell.
Thank you. That was a lot of fun. Paul, beautiful job.
Thank you.
Yeah.
William is said and left, so we can say to Paul, wonderful.
Oh, he was marvelous. He really put the pressure on me.
You know, it's unique to sit here on this stage with everybody, and probably for those of you listening to listen to it with the Foley and the sound effects and the acting to develop into an actual story that, you know, we're sitting here and we're following along in notebooks, but periodically I'd get caught up in the story and forget to turn the page. Oh, God, I'm next.
Oh, luckily Mr. Raw was there. Get on! Talk!
By the way, this entire production, first and foremost, would not have taken place had it not been for the people that we work with. Pam Baker, who the concept was hers, and worked very hard to get it done.
Our program director, John Duncan, who backed us 100% on this.
The guy that, he was so stressed after continuous working nights until 11, he actually cussed yesterday. He said dirty words. Mr. L. Frank Murphy. It's that cussing part that did it to him. All right, we do want to also thank Charles Mitchell, or first and foremost, the people at Signet Sound Deluxe. You guys, you know what?
Yeah. This is not their studio, like we do at the Christmas shows. They brought everything out, set it all up.
Oh, Glenn, you know, we're not going to screw this up this time. Last Christmas, we forgot to let him thank some people that he needs to thank, and that was bad. Not good, very bad.
Oh, yeah, very bad.
Very, very bad. Guys, thanks for inviting us again. We enjoy working with you every year. It's.
See you at Christmas.
We're ready, but
is there an Arbor Day play?
Paul, are you available for Arbor Day?
We'll play with $300 in it.
$300. But most importantly, this could not have come off without Tony Lamberti and John Tidal.
Yes, it could.
What do you think about it? These guys really picked up the ball and carried it, and from our point of view, they blocked out. They worked with Carrie and Ken and Brian over here. They really blocked out the script and found all the sounds, and they programmed them, and they're the ones who really should get the applause.
Yeah.
They'll never work in this town again.
Bastards.
So thank you.
All right, now we're going to be back down at Signet Sound Deluxe. We think we're going to be working together with them for the Christmas Scrooge, Christmas Carol. And so we're looking forward to that. As always, last year is going to be a tough act to follow, but we're going to certainly give it the best effort.
We got our time booked with you already.
Betcha, man. We'll see you
We're
there.
ready.
All right.
Some more thank yous. Can we get through these, Mr. Al? All right. We have Charles Michelson, Karen Tobin, Mark Segal, and Wavefront Technology.
Dig
Theremin.
this. Yeah, dig this thing.
Theremin.
Can you pot him up, the theremin? That is just so cool. Mark, thank you for coming down and doing that, man. It really added.
Kelly Gates, Peter Alexander, and Loretta Ramus of the Museum of Television and Radio.
What
How
a
about
place.
this place?
Man. Bob and Steve Michelson, Steve Cormier, and the KLOS Promotions Department. Lizard killing everybody involved. Great job, guys. Well, once again, we hate to keep harping on it, but the fact of the matter is this cannot happen without the talents of these people that came up here. They gave of their day. They got up early. They came down. There, of course, was no fee involved. This was nothing more than their contribution.
What do you mean, no fee?
Paul Moyer.
Like you need the money.
Sorvino. How much was that last contract?
Let's not talk about that.
Oh, did we forget to say this is Paul Moyer's Museum of Television and Radio? Did we forget?
That's the money we're talking. But it's out of the kindness of these folks' hearts that you just received the Halloween gift that you received.
Yeah.
So regardless of where you may be listening to this, whether it's in Honolulu, Hawaii, or Portland, Oregon, or Los Angeles, California, from Mark and Brian and these fine people, happy Halloween to you all.
Be safe. Drive safe. Have a great time tonight. Kids are going to be out there. Be careful. Be good humans. We'll see ya.
See you Monday. So now, first things first. The broadcast on Friday, War of the Worlds. I didn't hear it Friday night. That was a little late for me, but I did hear a taste of it coming in this morning. And man, Boyd, we didn't kind of know how that was going to be. This was the first time we had done not only the War of the Worlds, but the first time we had done one from down there at the Museum of Television and Radio. Boy, that just turned out to be more than anybody could have hoped for.
Yeah, I got to say, the fact that we didn't know how it was going to turn out added to the excitement and to the buzz. It was like live. Well, it was live, but it was like that live television show, the old Jack Benny show or something. I was like, okay, I hope everything goes well.
Sure, and my guess is the adrenaline and the butterflies actually, I guess you're suggesting that fueled some of the energy behind the broadcast.
Great energy.
Well, what better lead-in could we have? We had a winner on You Can't Win in front of 150 people that had come down for the broadcast.
That's exactly what Paul Sorvino said. He goes, that really helped my performance.
I love the fact that you guys had a winner on You Can't Win, and that I was able to nail it.
Thank you.
Something you didn't get a chance to hear, William Shatner, who, of course, was part of it, did his big scene where, as the reporter, he was witnessing the aliens come up out of the ashes and the steel machines and the death ray, and of course he's rayed up, he's fried, and he was sweating profusely as he did this piece, and shortly thereafter we took a break, and after we had taken that commercial break, the audience, the 150, standing ovation for William Shatner's.
That is very cool.
Oh.
You know, and he was really, from a listener's point of view, I've got to describe the scene here. We were all gathered in the studio. Everybody, the switchboarders, everybody was. There must have been, I don't know, 8 or 9 people sitting in that studio. Everybody sitting around with their feet up, looking, listening intensely. We were all. We panicked when the Martians arrived.
Did you?
Yeah, people running, hurt in the hallways.
Oh my God!
No, that's a little over the top, but we did. I mean, it was really a fun gathering here, and we all agreed William Shatner's over-the-top performance.
Yeah.
Pure
Perfect.
William Shatner was just great.
Couldn't have gone better.
Yeah.
It was meant to be. And so it just really, it was unique. And you know, the starring role, which really goes without saying that it's a starring role, are the people from Sound Deluxe, Signet Sound Deluxe, the Foley people. The sound effects. When they say there was a dog with a brown piece of rotten meat in his mouth, you heard it. And
I heard red raw meat, and I don't know. It's a problem.
You know,
if we do this next year,
right?
Get your meat straight.
Come on, guys. What the hell's
That's what
up
I
with
heard.
that?
I heard like flopping around meat, not charred meat.
There were glitches.
Yeah.
No question about it.
That was a problem for me.
There were glitches.
It just couldn't have gone better. It was amazing.
And to have the voice of Paul Moyer as the central announcer, moving back and forth, to have that voice that we've listened to for, I don't know how many years he's been in Los Angeles, but I mean, it just added a certain
72.
element. My,
He's been on the air.
My God,
Yeah.
that just says.
Did anyone see any television footage on this? Any coverage? We heard like every hour it was going to happen.
I watched the 4, nothing. I watched the 11, and they made mention of the fact that it was going to be rebroadcast at midnight that night. I didn't see any footage.
I didn't see any footage either. No, there might have been, though.
However, I didn't see the 6. The 5 or the 6. I didn't see those. I
They
only saw
had
the
cameras down there.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Run the whole time. Yeah, absolutely. Perfect setup for a radio theater situation. 150 people in the audience, just big enough to give you somebody to play to, but also intimate enough to make it special. We had the microphones lined up. We had chairs behind the microphones. When it came your part, you stood up, did your thing, and sat back down. Everybody congratulating everybody in between the scenes. We take a break, going over and shaking hands and saying what an excellent job everyone did. Looking forward to doing something like this next year. Looking forward to doing a lot of this, actually.
You
it's
know,
a lot of fun.
Part of my regret monitoring it and being here running the board was that we couldn't broadcast some of the breaks, because I was tuning in, listening, everybody congratulating each other, and there was a certain energy about building to the crescendo part of the whole bit. It was really, really nice to hear.
Well, it kicked off my my personal Halloween in a real great fashion, because Friday night, this particular Halloween this year, I don't know why exactly, but it was perfect. Everything about it was perfect. We had tons of people over the house. We all went trick-or-treating together. I got tons of candy. For the purpose of checking it out, I don't, need the candy, or I just want to make sure it's safe for the kids. And I racked up Snickers bars, king size. No, there's, not even regular size, king size. Yeah. And Milky Ways, I don't even usually eat those, but again, checking for razor blades and stuff, I had to pour through the majority of that. It was just a killer. And then we went back to the house after trick-or-treating. We had a little party there with some cake and some whatever. Just the best. Couldn't have enjoyed it more.
And your Halloween, Chuck?
Also great for a couple of reasons. One is I've long since abandoned the pretense of having to check through their candy anymore. I just say, give me some.
Give me some of that.
Grab some.
Give me.
They're on to you, man.
Yeah, I know. The jig is up. However, it was also Sarah's first time out on Halloween trick-or-treating without any parents or adults along. She went out with 4 other girls. 5 girls going out in kind of a safe neighborhood of Santa Monica. But what happens is, in these safe neighborhoods, all the kids want to go there because it's safe. And there's lots of police around, but the mischief making is intense. And so when Sarah called me to let me know when she got back from trick-or-treating, she said, "Dad, it was great. We almost got arrested."
Oh, God.
Just what I wanted to hear.
Hey, I just heard too much.
It was a bit of an exaggeration on her part, but she was so excited about the event. So it was really pretty fun.
Well, Matthew, who is 11, had 2 of his buddies over, and about midway through the trick-or-treating portion of the evening came the question, "Dad, can we go up ahead? Can we go up by ourselves?" And so after deliberation with the wifage, we made the decision 1 house ahead. If at any time I call your name, I want you in front of me. And he didn't venture. He got frustrated with it. He wanted to go because they run from one house to the other. But it was the fact that they weren't with the little kids and they were on their own, and big boys, they just had a blast. And I was a little depressed because, he's moving on. He's not with us anymore. What the hell's up with this?
Didn't want to soap windows or throw eggs with you?
No, he wanted to do it on his own.
Gone on.
Yeah. Now, your Halloween.
It was great. It was fun, actually. I went to a party Friday night with some friends. Friend's house, beautiful, and it was a perfect kid neighborhood. In fact, like you were saying, Chuck, kids come from miles around for this neighborhood. In fact, the neighborhood hires security to walk around and just be there. Good. And my friend's sister was running the door. The doors left open. It was perfect weather. Running the door. And I heard her call my name. Oh, by the way, I didn't go as a cowboy.
All right. Oh, didn't?
No. I went as a country western biker, country western singer biker.
Okay.
Which is basically what happens when you go to which I did, go to the section of the closet where the clothes are either too tacky, too out of style, or don't fit anymore.
Okay.
Yeah, I went there.
Oh, that area.
Yeah, I went over there. All right, so I was country western singer biker, and I heard her call my name. Brian, come here. So I go up to the front door, and there's this kid. And he goes, have you seen this kid before? And I looked. Yeah, I have. Just a different mask. Okay. He keeps running up, changing a mask, and grabbing handfuls of the candy. And he's only supposed to get 1 or 2 of each thing. And I said, well, it's Halloween. She goes, no, I'm tired of it. This is 5th time. Yeah. And then he runs in the house and goes for the bowl. He takes the 3 steps in and grabs the bowl. So she goes, will you please remove him? So I was bouncer.
Bouncing.
And I took.
Good work.
The kid's 9 years old. Right. I picked him up by the collar of the neck and just grabbed him, by the shirt, and just grabbed him and tossed him on out of the house.
Sometimes you gotta take matters in your hands.
Well, the funny thing was there were 5 kids in line next, and they all left. Oh man, that's, tough joint.
This house has a bouncer.
I felt pretty
I'm
tough.
Not going in there.
Thought you were going to say the kid turned out to be, when his mask came off, was Gary Coleman.
Right, Gary Coleman. But then tennis Saturday, it was hot. It was 147 degrees.
It was really, really hot.
Court temperature.
Do they not know it's November here?
Only gotten 3 sets and then 4 sets on yesterday, Sunday. And it was just under 100. But we had a wind going, which is not good for tennis either, playing the wind. The only good thing about it is you blame whatever bad shot you make on the wind.
How's the wind? That wasn't me. I normally nail that shot.
And you think you're believable until your partner uses the same excuse, and then you just laugh. Boy, did I sound that dumb? Did I sound that bad? But it was a good weekend. Frank?
Halloween was a trip at our place. We moved recently, and where we used to live, no kids came because it was an apartment complex in a business district.
Yeah.
So my wife and I, Friday evening, go pick up some candy. We try to be health conscious. She wants to get the candy that's kind of like the not sweetened with sugar type candy.
Mm-hmm.
Honey, mistake. Mm-hmm. No, let's get it. Okay, so she got a couple handfuls. I said, that's not near enough. We're going to get a lot of kids. Oh, no. Working out at the gym Friday night, phone call. Honey, we need more candy. We've had a deluge of kids. No problem. Go to the store, get Kit Kat, Snickers, all the good stuff. I come home. There's a trail, unbeknownst to me, of candy leading up to the door. And what it was is kids coming to the door, getting this, almost candy and just flailing it. Didn't want it. Walked away.
Almost candy.
Almost
candy.
You
got to give out name brand. I know this is good.
Oh, we learned it.
Sure.
Butterfingers, Baby Ruth.
That's what you're talking
Snickers,
about. Mickey Way, paydays. Bring it
Absolutely.
on. Now, I got to tell you, there is a house in our neighborhood that every year it just gets better and better. This lady and her kids, they're grown. Her kids are 17, 18, 19. They don't trick-or-treat anymore. So what she does, and she loves Halloween, she decks her front porch out, and they put on kind of a show. So we arrive, don't know what they're going to do. So we arrive, and there's no one there. The lights are off except this one orange glow, and they've got a table sitting there with a bowl on top. Says, we went to a party, take one. So Matthew reaches in the bowl to get a piece of candy. Something grabs his arm and pulls him down into the. She and her kids were down under this table.
Oh, that's awfully bitching.
Oh, you should have seen his. I mean,
that is cool.
His wig came off. I mean, and so then, after they finished, we got his hand out. We all had a big kick out of that, and so we're leaving. And as we walked by, the bushes rattled a little bit, and so Amy goes over to investigate, and Dracula sits up.
There's a mistake.
Well, it brought Katie to tears. Yeah. We had to explain this, so it was a little too scary for the real young kids.
But that's a cool idea. Oh, that's a very cool idea.
She spends her Halloween scaring. She doesn't trick or treat anymore, and then she has somebody else answer the door for her. So it was just great. They did a great job, and it was a fabulous Halloween.
And we hope yours was, too. We hope it was safe, and all your kids got a lot of candy. Now, remember, you can take them. You're usually bigger than your kids, especially at trick-or-treating age.
Yeah.
So take what you want. They
That's
can do.
my philosophy.
There you go. They can do nothing about it.
The bummer of it for the show, since Halloween is over, is no more scary call of the day. You know, we don't have that. There's no reason to do.
Well, you know, it's always good to leave your audience wanting more, so I think that's what we've done. I think we've hooked you for next year.
No question.
And we'll pick them back up.
You'll be chomping at the bit for the scary call of the day.
We gave you just enough scary calls a day, I think. I think that's what we did. We left our audience one more.
Which is where you want it.
Sure.